I guess probably one of the keys to me giving you a sense of who I am, if not what I am, has to do with my family background and the history of my ancestors. I come from, definitely from pioneer, rural, farm people. In the early, in the latter part of the 19th century, southern Alberta was open for homesteading, and sent a lot of people up to settle that area. Cardston was settled in 1890 or 1887 by a group of people sent up under the leadership of Charles O'Ricard, and they leased some land from the Indian Reserve and took up some land in homesteads and set up the town of Cardston, which of course was the place that I was raised. At about the same time, a lot of settlers came up to Raymond, and then to Tabor and Barnwell, and that's where my mother's side of the family came in. A large group of Johnsons came up from Arizona and settled around Barnwell and Tabor around 1890. There was a caravan of them, and there are pictures surviving to this day of them arriving near Lethbridge, and there was a big celebration on the 100th anniversary of their arriving there. The leader of the group was my great-great-grandfather, William Sawyer Johnson, and my grandmother, Allie Johnson McCoy Wilcox, was a child at that time when they arrived in southern Alberta. They set up an irrigation system. It was very dry country, and prospered as farmers by being able to bring in adequate water in that area. A lot of my Johnson relatives still live in Barnwell and in that area. My grandmother, Wilcox, who was a Johnson, had a farm when I was young. We used to visit there. I used to love to pick things out of the garden and pick berries from the bushes. And I remember during the war, the sugar beet farm that was right next to Grandma's had a crew of German prisoners of war working on it, and with the guards with rifles, and the whole thing brought the war home to me. It was a little horrifying to think of those men being herded around like criminals by these men with rifles, but that was going on, and they were happy to be there because they were out of the war, and their lives were a lot pleasanter there as prisoners than they might have been were they in the late stages of the war. My grandmother Wilcox was a very beautiful woman. I have pictures of her, a wedding picture. She was about 18 years old. She looks very virginal and just a gorgeous looking woman. The man she married, Orrin Wilcox, looks kind of staid and stiff, which seemed to be the pattern or the proper demeanor for pictures in those days. Grandma looks to me like she was scared to death, a very innocent girl, not knowing what was happening. They had a pretty good marriage. They had several children, and then Grandpa Wilcox died with his appendix burst, and they had moved to California, and he died there. Grandma moved back with her four young children, and they lived with William Sawyer Johnson family. Grandma had an aristocratic fineness about her that really appealed to me. I remember really clearly her living room, which most of the time in the winter wasn't heated, so she never went in there. But in the summertime, I remember looking at the treasures that she had collected. Not a large amount, but she had some very fine china and a few lovely pieces of jewelry and things of that, a few pictures hanging on the wall. And she used to tell me stories about the journey up from Arizona and what life was like in southern Alberta in those hard times when she had lost her husband. She went off a lot, left her children with Grandpa and Grandma William Sawyer Johnson, and made her living cooking for threshing crews and odd jobs like that she could pick up. Life was tough for her, but in her later life, she moved to Cardston, and I got to know her pretty well. She was a sweet, wonderful lady.